Right, Neil, who's having a CB1100RS 5Four, he's bought me a standard bike. It's second-hand, low mileage. I've had a quick look at it. It is immaculate. It's even shiny under the mudguards. I don't think it's ever been ridden in the rain. So look, the first thing is to strip a load of it off so we can start working on the bits we need to work on. So obviously, this seat we don't need. So that can go. So basically now, I'll give you a quick rundown of what I'm going to do so I don't have to talk the whole way through it and bore you. Firstly, the grab rail comes off, rear light, rear mudguard. I have to take the tool tray out to get at the wiring for the indicators and the rear light to feed it back through. Side panel's going to come off. I've already put my spanner down. Oh, here we go. So yeah, first thing, side panel off, and then I'll take the tool tray out so we can get at the wiring. Tools will come out. I tend to use the tool tray to put all these little rubbers and bits in, and I'll put it away on the bench or in a box, and you know that that's what came off that bike. Just get the tool tray out. Underneath here is the battery, and also behind the battery is the connectors for all this rear end lighting and indicators and what have you. That screw can stay in the tool tray. So that's cool. Right now I'm going to take the grab rail off. These normally have a really thin washer on these. It's wafer thin. I'll crack this one loose already. Got the thin washer on that. Right, so that can go in his box of bits. He'll be getting all this stuff back. He can't ever put that back on though once I've 5-4'd it, because the indicators will be mounted where that mounts. Just put this one back in the frame. Just finishes them nicely. You can see that lug when the single seat's on, so that's why I put them back in. They are actually redundant on a 5-4. But Honda, in their wisdom, have put quite nice bolts in there. So here we go. This is the wiring for all this rear light and everything. So if you bend that out the way, try and be a little bit gentle with it. Pull this out. Right, now the ones we're interested in, well, in this cluster, it is all of them. Now to get these apart, I need a little screwdriver. So, blue one is right hand rear indicator. So that one can come out. All this will be going back on once I've modified the indicator. So there's that one. Orange left hand indicator. So that'll go there. Pull that out. You just lift the little tab that's on them. I'll show you on this one. Now I've said that, I'll be a fumble fingers. So there's the tab on it. Just gently lift that up, not too far, and then pull that out. There you go. So that's that little lot out. Then you can pull it out here. You need to get it out of all the clips. This can be quite a tight clip. There you go, that's come out easy. That's been quite kinked, that one. That's that. Just take it out of all the clips, because obviously you've got to pull all this out the back. That you need to lift with a screwdriver. When you lift it, it's spot welded onto the mudguard. So get your screwdriver underneath it and push down on that so you don't snap that off. Then you just lift it so you can get the wires out. Look, that comes out of there easy. That one normally goes in there as well, but this one isn't. All the other ones I've done, that's been through there as well. So that's fine. That's that done. So there's the wiring. So when we pull stuff out now, the brake light goes through a channel in the mudguard, and that's quite tricky. So now we're ready to take this back bit off. So that's good. So right now, there's 2 bolts here that hold the lens in here. I've loosened it already. So these can be very tight. That's why I loosened it before we started filming. I've had these seized and the captive nut in the plastic housing has just spun, even on a brand new one. And I had to get one under warranty because you just couldn't get it undone. Someone had over-tightened it, I think. We won't be using any of this again, so these bolts can just go in a bag. I've got a bag now for, and everything from this rear end. There's 10mm nuts and washers and all sorts in there. So that now, look, it is loose. You can't get it out yet because the wiring is in this channel. Right now, I'm just going to get all this stuff off, and then we need to keep this reflector mount. They always go everywhere. Oh, there it is. It's just a spacer. Put that in there. So I want his reflector off because that's going to go back on it. We do not need this bracket. That goes in our little tool tray where we've got the rubbers for the side panels. All the little bits and pieces that I'm putting back on, I'll just put them in there. It's my go-to place. So that goes in there. This can't really fall off because of the wiring in the mudguard. There's a load more spacers and washers here. If you were putting all this back on, you'd be very careful about which bolt came out of which thing, but because we're not actually keeping any of this, right, that's all loose now. So the thing now, I need a 10mm spanner. Have I got one out? I had one earlier. Here it is. Let me just think about this. Right, now this mudguard is held in here, and these 2 dome nuts here. So I'm just going to slacken these so that it doesn't drop out yet. I keep these little black ones. They go in a bag in the tool tray, just to make sure we've got them. This one. These bolts don't go back in. We put longer ones in because my rear light mount goes on. That's that. Right, I'll take these right the way out. So I can take these right the way out because those will still hold it in, but I'll hopefully get a little bit of wiggle room to get the rest of it out. And in fact, what I normally do is take one of these off because you can get a bit tied up. You want to be able to get this off easily in a minute. So I'm just going to put that one there because we want to keep that one. That's still a bit tight. Obviously this mudguard's going back on once I've shortened it, and the reason I do that is because it's got all these wiring clips. You know, Honda's attention to detail with that is very good. Right, at the moment I only want the brake lights out. Obviously the indicators are still on the frame, so I'll leave those there. Right, now I've got hold of it so it doesn't drop on the floor, hopefully. Right, there we go. Now I need this, but the wiring goes through it. So, and there's 2 spacers here that we need. So pull that away and then get it on the bench. Okay, so now this wiring has to come out. This comes through here fairly straightforward and easy. Now this one has to come through here. There we go. I'd hate to have to thread that back in. It comes out of there. What's that? That comes out of there. That comes out of there. Right, so that is to go back on. Obviously the mud guard is. I'm just going to get rid of those bits into his box. So I've got a box here for bits that are going back on as well. So I need another little bag for those. Okay. Those I tend to just put in there. They're the spacers. We need that. We need that nut. I've got the other one somewhere. I took it off. I'll leave this on, this rubber thing here, because I clamp it down by this when I'm going to chop it off. So I'll leave that on. It's quite useful for the G-clamp. I clamp it to this bench and cut it. So there's those two there. Now other bits will go in there later. I get the screws out, the switch gear, they go in there when I'm going to deal with the twist grip. Those are going in his to-go box. That's staying. I'll leave that in there as well. It is great doing a bike where you've done it many times, because I know what bits I'm reusing and which bits I'm not. So I've got the side panels. Here's one I had off the bike earlier. So these are going to go to Arnie for paint. So down the end I've got a box for stuff to go in for paint. So I'm not going to wrap them particularly carefully at the moment because they're not going anywhere. I've got a nice dust sheet. I'll wrap them and that obviously I'll cut in a little while when I'm ready. Right, next, the indicators are coming off because I have to linish them down, and I've got to chop this lug off because it would look awful with the indicators that far back with a single seat on it. So yes, let's just get these off, bag them up, ready to be worked on down the line. I work on all this stuff while it's being painted because these take Arnie a while to paint them because it's quite complicated paintwork. And so I do most of the sort of fabrication assembly while it's being painted. But what I'll do is I'll get this stripped and then I will trial fit the bodywork, which I've shown to Neil. He's happy with it. Now these can be a so-and-so. Well, it's got this metal plate here with two prongs on it. You've got to watch you don't strip the wiring, levering that out. Then once it's at that stage, you get that right the way out, pull it out. They are greased, but obviously this bike's a couple of years old. And then you pull the rubber out. You can't pull that out till that's out. But it means they're rubber mounted. There's a bit of flex in them, so if your pillion catches it with their foot getting on, it's not a disaster. Right, there's one. I'm not putting the bolt back in it because I chopped them down. That's too long. We won't be actually reusing that. Let's get this one off. You have to hold the stalk still. That's it. I've had some of these mega tight as well, but this one's okay. I'll just put stainless Allen bolts in these, copper slip them. Get that plate off, the same gig this side. These are coming out nicely actually. There we go. That's that one. Put the mount in. So down the line, I have got, as I said about 3 times, I'll linish that, and you have to chop this down as well. It can be a little bit fiddly, but nothing major. I just tend to put them together, chuck them in a bag. They'll go in the bag, the box of bits to go back on and to be worked on at a later stage. Because all we're doing at the moment is stripping the bike down. Right, next, I'm going to get the tank off, and I'll bung that in a box down there. I've got to take the fuel pump out of that and drain it. So look, I've taken the 2 breather hoses off and the fuel line. I can turn that off now and stop blinding everyone. I want that out of the way. This is going to be repainted. If I did mark it, it doesn't matter but that's not a good habit to get into, so I'm going to try and get it off. So you pull it back a few inches and then lift it straight up. I tell you, the first one of these I did, it took forever. Oh, I haven't taken the classic mistake there. I've got to just take the electrics for the fuel pump out, which is that one. That comes out of there. You just lift the tab towards you and pull it out. Basic error there. And I'm going to put this down over there. Yeah, this is heavy. Next, I'm going to take the exhaust off. And you can see, look, that's already, we've not been going long really. That's already looking quite stripped. Oh, heater's starting. Thank God for heat. So yeah, so next, ignore the heater noise. I don't want to freeze. That one. They're good, these. You can loosen them without having to put a spanner on the back. Now this one, I might put a glove on to stop me skinning my knuckles. We'll see how we go. They have a big gasket in these, and that can sometimes stick on the bike, and you have to get that off, obviously. I need that. I do need the extension. So just to clamp this end, take the bolt out that end, and then try and get it off. That's great. The gasket has stayed in the exhaust, which is what I wanted. So that's cool. The gasket stayed on that one, so we'll have to get that off. Look, they're graphite, they're horrible. Right, next I'm taking the footrest plates off because these have got to be chopped for a single seat and mirror polished. So I have done loads of these, so hopefully it should be straightforward. First the gear change off. I'll just leave this dangling. None of them have ever come to any harm doing that with me, so take that. You need that washer, you need the bolt, so put that on there. Now we just undo. This one's easy, this side, because it's that's all it is to get off it. I strip the foot pegs off and this exhaust mounting rubber once it's off on the bench. The other side's a bit more involved, so I'll brake after I've got this off and get the tools out for that. All this stuff's fairly loose. They're normally tighter than this. Yeah, that's the one. Try and hold it parallel so it's easy to turn. Obviously, sometimes these can be stiff and you need the ratchet on it, but these, luckily, are really straightforward. So that I'll put on the side. I'll get the footrests and rubbers out in a minute, and I'll bag it all up. And then once the other side's off, I'll be tackling getting the centre stand off, because a 5.4 doesn't have a centre stand. So look, that's that one done. It's now round the other side, and do the other one. I'll just get some tools. Right, so first I'm just going to put a bit of bubble wrap. I'm not going to tape it on or anything, but obviously look, this master cylinder's quite near this beautiful aluminium swinging arm, so I'm just going to try and give it a bit of protection, because obviously when you're loosening this will wobble a bit, and I've got to get a spring off the master cylinder and the rear brake pedal. It's got quite a lot of tension in it. So look, that's just precautionary. Hopefully that'll do the job and I won't absolutely wreck it. So the first thing to do, I need a longer extension. Oh no, that'll be all right actually. So these have got to come out. I'm hoping I've got all the tools I need. As I say, it's a little while since I've done one. Obviously these will be going back in once I've stripped this out of the way. Now I want my glasses. Blind as a bat I am without them, close up. Right, now this bit is to just put round here. Which order am I going to do this? I am just gonna get the spring off first, which can be a little bit of a so-and-so. I'll put the screwdriver in the spring, push it all the way through, and then lift it. This can be tricky. There we go, that's off. Don't overstretch that or you'll damage it. So there's the spring, that's off. Next, there's a circlip on here, which is normally at the top. But again, don't overstretch that. Where did I put the spring? Oh yeah, thank you, Harry. There's a washer on there, spacing washer. Put that there. I know from doing these I should have 5 things in there when I'm done. Now, keep supporting this. Now I just got to get these. There's a little 10mm socket. Quite traditionally, I've skinned my knuckles doing these. They can be very tight, so I'm just taking the master cylinder mounting bolts out. Right, and they have Loctite on them. I'll re-put Loctite on those when I put them back in, because you don't want those falling out while you're going along. You lose your rear brake. That's that. Hold that there. Put the bolts down there for a minute. Slide that off. Put that on the floor that way up. And then what I do is I'll put this back in. Just a few turns. I'll leave that bag there. Again, so if you're wheeling the bike around the workshop, this is why those are there if it's jiggling. Hopefully you won't mark the swinging arm, because that swinging arm is a work of art. I think I'm in the high 40s now for how many of these I've built, so I've got used to doing them, and I've worked out all this over the time. You know, the first one I did took forever, and then how do I support that? And it's actually very easy. Right, that won't fall out, so that can stay there. This one can come out now, but it's just that on the swinging arm I'm worried about. And you've got to watch when you wheel it, because that's touching the wheel. I'll have to deal with that if I'm going to wheel it. I'll probably wrap that itself. So that's that done. And then my tray here, I've got my 5 components. I know there's 5. So there's all 5. So this goes over there, and then we can strip the footrests off this. Right, so now I'm just going to strip these and bag the bits. This is right hand side. So put RHS on it. So these are going in, these 5. That's got to come out. There's the chrome washer. Then just got to get this rubber bush out. That's that. It goes there, there. And then I'll turn this way up and do it so that if I slip and scratch it, it's on the inside rather than the outside. Just push that out. There we go. They come out, they're quite soft those, they come out nice and easy. Put that back together loosely. Right, so that's that hardware for the right hand side. Next, I need another bag. The Sharpie pen's running out. I need another one. Here we go. Well, it's got RH on it already. I reuse these because they don't have to be sterile clean. It's just to keep it together. So in here is going to go the footrest. Move that one out of the way. That's all right. So what do I need here? I need some different tools now, so bear with me. So I'm just spreading the circlip. if you hold the head of it still with like long nose pliers in there, you got to get. Obviously, this pin's not reusable. You got to chuck these away. But I use them just to store it actually. And then get that in there. I'll just move that round. That should rotate. There we go. So I can get a good angle on it. Then pinch that flat like that. Look. Then I'll spin it again if I can. Some of these can be stiff. Then what I'll do is I'll push down on it. There we go. What's coming out, look, fairly straightforward. The last bit can be stiff. So just put it in the eye of it and tap that. Doesn't matter if you lose this. There we go, I have lost it. Take the washer out, take that out, flip it over, pull that out. I'll re-grease all these when it goes together. There's the spring, return spring to tension it forward. Put that back in, put that on, and then normally, if I can find it, there it is, I'll just put that in there to keep it together. Need to just squeeze that in. Obviously I won't reuse this when I put it back on the bike, but it's quite useful if you can, just to get that back in there. There we go, that'll do. So that's going, because it's the, yeah, it's definitely the right hand side. So that goes in there. Now the pillion one. Same thing. Use your long nose pliers just to hold that still. And by the way, this is just the way I do it. I'm sure people have their own technique and they'll think, oh, he's taking forever to do that. But it's just I've found it the easiest way. So when you think I've built nearly 50 of these, I've done 100 of these footrest plates, including the left and the right. You don't need to get that all the way around. Get your long nose pliers, get it near the edge of the bench so you can get right, and then just pinch that on both of them like that in the middle and pull it towards you as you pinch like that. Look, and that's as straight as I can get them easily. And then tap it out. If it doesn't come out, it's because it's too bent, so just try and straighten it. There we go, that's coming. As I say, these always fly off, but hold it level. And the other thing is, when you're putting it back together, you can do the same thing to hold it level, to spread it there rather than it spin. There we go, that's that one out. Get that washer off. Now obviously these won't be going back on, but it's got to come off anyway for when they machine them off, because I don't machine them off. My mate Danny does that. Pull that out. Now there's a spring and a ball bearing here, which I do want to try and keep, so that they're a complete working footrest. There it is, look, hold that there. There, look, there's the ball bearing, and there's a spring under there. And I'm just going to chuck it in here to keep it together, because I know it doesn't come off the front one. I don't bother putting all this back together, because the front one's together. Oh, get me right on 2 and 8. That pin, I dropped it. There we go. So look, there's a complete pillion peg spare there. So that now is ready to go off. Got to get the powder coat off. I think they're anodized underneath as well. And machining to machine this off beautifully. So that's that one done. It's exactly the same with this. Obviously I've got to bag that in a bag and mark it left hand. So that is, where's the bits off that? I'm missing the, there we go. So there's the 5 pieces to hold the master cylinder, spring, brake pedal, return and all that. That's in there. So that is a complete set of hardware for the right hand footrest. And that will go in his box down there, in the box of bits to go back on. Right, now we've got the footrest plates and exhaust off. You've got easier access to this. None of this lot has to come off to get this centre stand pivot off, but as this has got to come off anyway, I've done that first, so it's a little bit clearer and easier. Now, we're removing this centre stand. Because being a 5.4, we don't want all this scaffolding on there unnecessarily. And to be honest, You know, if you get a puncture at the side of the road, you can get a tubeless repair kit to get you home to plug it. And to be honest, 90% of people, if they get a puncture when they're out, they call a relay and get it taken home and work on it at home. So you don't really need a centre stand when you're scratching out and about. And it chops a load of weight off, and it's aesthetically better considering this is going to look, you know, more stripped down than it did. So the first thing to do, there's a locking plate with a Allen bolt in it. I don't know if you can see in there, Harry, see that there? That Allen bolt there, we take that out, and then that allows the pivot shaft for this, that it pivots on, to come out. So I'm just going to take the locking bolt out, and then we'll go from there. I'll talk you through it. So that's in there, a little bit stiff. These get a lot of grime. Obviously, if this was 15 years old, this would be a lot stiffer than this. Right, that's the locking bolt out. And so now, in essence, all we've got to do is pull that shaft out. But when it comes out of the frame lug the other side, it cants to one side, and it makes this seize because it's not parallel. It's very difficult to pull out. So what I tend to do now is drift it the other side with an extension bar for a 3/8 drive socket, and knock it in, and it might pivot it. 90% of the time they don't, and I'll have to pull this across and then get a screwdriver behind the locking tab and wiggle it out. You'll see it can be a little bit fiddly, and I just let the springs go bang because the tension on these, there's a double spring here, one inside the other, and I'll tell you, they are tough. And the other thing is, if ever you want to put it back on, I do a reversal of the removal procedure. Don't ever try and pull them on with a puller. I've tried it. I've never managed it yet. The only way I've got them back on is by putting the springs on and then getting this in. Right. So I've now got to drift the spindle for the centre stand. You see it pivots on that. Look, there's the pivot. There's the springs that I tell you now, trying to pull that off now, I can't do it on my own. I'm not man enough. So that's undersized from the shaft. So I've got my mallet, and I'm just going to gently tap that, and it will cant to one side when it comes out of this lug. But don't get too stressed about it. It can get a little bit jammed. So look, I'll tap that. Look, you can see it moving. There you go. It's gone, and it's gone canted, which means I've got to try and pull this, pull it down, and pull it parallel, and try and pull it out the other side. I'd like to have drifted that in a little bit more actually, but I think that'll do. So now I go back round the other side and try and pull it out. Now the first thing I do is get a screwdriver in there, try and pull it reasonably parallel, which is like that, and flick this round because that won't come out in that position. See that there? And then try and lever it like that, try and lever it out as much as I can. There we go. There we go, that's that. I'm going to need one other thing that I haven't got. Right, I'll let that go now. Just let that rest on the tyre there. Right. I'm going to try and pull it with a set of mould grips. It doesn't always work. These can be a so-and-so. Try and lock that on there. I've not put mega on that. Parallel. I might. Here we go, look. Now, I'll warn you now, when this comes out of the actual centre stand, not this lug, it goes bang and the springs fly off, and don't have your eyes anywhere near it. So here we go. This will go bang in a minute. It's normally not too bad. Now I've said that, it will probably be catastrophic. Here we go. So in a minute, that's going to go clang. There we go. And that is the easiest way I've found of doing it without damaging anything on the bike or my arm. And then this is the mechanism, look for it. I tell you, that spring, the length you have to stretch that, in my experience, forget trying to get, a proper spring puller. I've got them. I've never managed to fit one yet on my own like that. So if I was putting this back together, I put that back on, hook it on the centre stand, and then pivot it up and get the pivot in. I can do it like that on my own. Forget a spring puller. So look, there's the component bits. I'll bag all this up, he can have it back. It's useful in the workshop without the spring on. You can easily put that in and put it on the centre stand if you haven't got a paddock stand, because you can pop this back in and out really easily, just say you have got a stand. So he will get all that back, and gets all the bits back anyway. So that's that done, and we'll move on to the front end next time. So I'm happy with that for an afternoon to get this stripped down. I've got to take the fuel pump out of the tank and that, but we'll film that later. So I'm happy with that for an afternoon.